Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I haven't posted in a while, but I'm on campus finally, and this video is a bit different than the ones I usually post. Um, I'm interviewing an entrepreneur, and I had to do this for my entrepreneurship class, and I just thought that it would be cool to share it. I mean, a lot of people might want to see it because there's a lot of interesting stuff about just stuff about her business and a lot of things to learn from in general. I might be posting a few more like this if y'all like it. Thank you again for watching.
We might have sketchy network too because we're on campus.
Yeah.
This is your first week on campus?
So much.
My daughter is running around the house. Yeah, she should be sleeping, but anyway, she's not. Okay, great. Let's start.
So, I mean, we just wanted to start with maybe how and where did you begin the, thinking about establishing a company?
So I'll give you a quick context to my background first. It'll give you some sense of where the inspiration came from. My undergrad was actually in law at National Law School, and after law school, I actually joined McKinsey and Company as a management consultant. While at McKinsey, I worked. You can work across clients, right? So you can work across sectors, etc. I think the sector I found most fascinating was the healthcare sector, and specifically maternal and child health. So while I was at McKinsey, I worked extensively worked with the Gates Foundation, for instance, to create a national child nutrition strategy, working with EMRI in scaling, 108, which is an ambulance service provider, right? It was only in one city in Hyderabad. We scaled it to 10 states. So, that became pretty much an area of passion for me. How do you sort of scale healthcare interventions and specifically in things that impact women and children, right? Went on to business school at Harvard. In fact, my essay was all about I'm going to come back to India and be an entrepreneur, right? In something that's digital first and something that impacts the it's something I had at the back of my mind for well over a decade now, right? Anyway, so to cut a long story short, all of these things were happening, and I noticed a couple of trends, right? Which became even more emphasized when I was in business school. Two trends in particular. One was that, when I left India, digital was still a very nascent sort of conversation, right? It was still, people were still sort of talking about the digital, percolation, digital democracy, etc. But by the time I'd finished business school and, what I was seeing back in India, because the geo revolution pretty much, right? People had access to the internet at scale. So that was something that was very, very encouraging. But I think at the same time, I was seeing not too many women had access to products that were relevant for them, digital products relevant to them, right? So that was one observation I had. I think the second thing was, I think it was still sort of internet, internet product 1.0, which is all about, shopping, so Flipkart, etc. Right. But there was certainly a space to be had for more essential plays, right, around healthcare. Right. So anyway, that was pretty much the seed of the idea. So I was like, okay, someone has to build, a network for women and a platform for women to get the best care for themselves during pregnancy and parenting. Yeah. Digital can do that because it can also personalize care at scale. Right. And it's also something that can build, virtual communities, which is how women learn anyway. Mm-hmm. So I think these were all the themes that came together, and that's what basically prompted me to start Baby Chakra.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No issue.
Yeah.
Very cute.
She's very cute, yeah.
Yeah, so we actually wanted to know, even when starting up, there are usually a lot of risks you have to take, a lot of challenges that you have to face. So early on, what were the main challenges you had to face, and how did you overcome them? And was that the toughest part of the journey?
So entrepreneurship is not an easy journey. Even today, I mean, it's not easy, right? Yeah. I think so. There's of course one challenge around entrepreneurship itself that I can tell you in length about, right? I think the second piece around being a woman in tech and being pretty much a sole founder starting off as well, right? So let me sort of break it down into these two themes, right? So I think entrepreneurship itself is tough because you're sort of building, you sort of trying to build something which does not exist. Of course, that's tough already, and you have to get the right team, investors, talent, customers, right, to basically bet on you. So I think the first couple of, first year and a half is a lot about you sort of having the confidence when frankly you don't have a reason to have any confidence because nothing exists, right? But you need to have the confidence to basically say that, I will build this amazing future or this amazing solution when frankly you haven't built any of it. Right. So I think that for me was extremely tough because, typically I think a lot of us grow up saying that, don't talk about things until you've proved them. Right. And I think entrepreneurship is very different, right? You're sort of building the future. Right. So I think that was a big internal sort of personal learning and bridge I had to cross, right? That you have to believe in what you set out to do, right? Even if no one else believes in you at that point in time. And you have to translate that belief at every point with different people, right? And different stakeholders. I think the second big challenge, of course, was sort of more tangibly, raising money. And it kind of comes back to that second theme I talked about, also being a woman entrepreneur, being a sole founder, right?
Yeah.
I mean, just think about this, right? I come from a place of great privilege. I'd had the best education, the best pedigree. I was like, my ambition was clearly established, right? I mean, still an ambitious person, right? But I think, at that point in time, I remember going to pitch to a couple of folks, and one angel investor telling me that, what's going to happen when you become pregnant. And that really set me back in my confidence levels a fair bit, right? Because I was like, what do you mean? Like, am I being looked at from a very gendered lens, which is not favorable to me in this particular case, right? And I never experienced bias like this initially, right? Ever, professionally, that is. So I think that really sort of set me back. But I think, cut forward to where we are today, I think it's an amazing time, right? To be an entrepreneur and to be a woman entrepreneur in tech, right? I think it's a fabulous time because, just to sort of give you another example, right? About 3 years back, I was pregnant with Arya, who you saw sort of flipping in and out, right? And I went into a couple of IC meetings, so investment committee meetings, with some amazing venture funds. Pretty much no one asked me about my pregnancy. Like, no one really had that conversation with me. I had one experience of that sort, right? So that experience, because I had more confidence, I was like, listen, I don't think you're the right partner for me. Like, literally, when I was asked a question, they were like, come back. Like, they were like, what are you going to do in a quarter? Because you're going to give birth. And I was like, listen, I don't think we're the right partner at all because you don't get me. Right. So that I could have. But the other conversations I had, there was no conversation around my pregnancy. There was no unconscious, conscious bias. It was a very practical conversation about how the business is going to grow. And that was it. Right. And I got a term sheet. I signed my SHA, etc. when I was like in my 9th month of pregnancy. So I was literally like doing documentation from my hospital bed once I gave birth as well. Right. So I think it's a great time to be a woman entrepreneur. So yes, I think challenges will exist in entrepreneurship and being a woman in tech.
Yeah.
But I think I think the future is very, very bright.
Yeah, definitely. Is there, like, going back to, like, how you started, is there anything you would have done maybe differently? Where do you think you placed your importance? Was it to understand the market of healthcare, nutrition, or was it to more understand what not the audience, I'm sorry, but what the consumer needs?
So I think one thing that worked out very, very well and still works out very well for us is I think the disproportionate emphasis we've placed on consumer needs and consumer centricity. Right. I think if I look back, I think every decision we've made has kept this philosophy, and every person at Baby Chakra will tell you it's a philosophy of keeping the mums first, right? And we actually have a trust equation as a company, right? Which is about like how the mums will be first, about like there's a trust equation, right? That everyone gets in, gets shared with on the first day of onboarding into the company as well, about how mothers have to come first. So I think that is something we've done really well as a company. I think people trust us, right? And I think if you think about the sector we play in, which is maternal and child health, right? I mean, it's all about trust, right? And that's important. I think the second thing we did really well, which I think we've done actually a really fabulous job of, is also about ensuring we create personalized sort of care communities, right? And that again is the power of digital, right? And product thinking. So we were very early in the game where we said that, okay, if a mother is going through a journey of pregnancy, it's not like she wants a cookie cutter approach, right? Because every mother's different. It's a mother from Chennai versus a mother from Chandigarh, right? Her needs are different, her aspirations are different. If she has a 6-month-old baby versus she's 6 months pregnant, her needs and aspirations are different. Stay-at-home mother versus working mother, again, everything is so different, right, about her journey. So we started creating a lot of personalized journeys for each consumer cohort. And we started mapping communities of care, be it doctors and be it other mothers who were most relevant to those journeys at those relevant points in time, all facilitated by digital. I think these two things are done really, really well. I think what we could have done better was, I think in the middle, and I've shared this before as well, when you're building out a very community-centric, high-trust product, right? There was this time where there was this lot of conversation around quantity of users on our platform, right? And how many more we could get and how fast we could scale and grow. And I think what ended up happening was that for this 1 year of our life, right, as a company, we prioritized quantity over quality.
Right.
And that was a very big mistake. Because when I look back, I think, when you're building a platform that's so predicated on trust, on conversations and community building, when you don't have the right communities in the first place, right? Because you're just getting people who you're just sort of trying to add numbers onto, right? And you're getting it through performance marketing and digital growth hacks, which don't really get the relevant audience, but you want to show these increasing sort of numbers of users, right? it doesn't make sense, right? So I think that was the one piece that I regret when I look back. And now I'm very, very particular with my team saying when we're acquiring users, of course, you have to scale the platform. It's a no-brainer because what is the purpose of existing, right? But when you scale with purpose, scale with meaning, and scale with the relevant audiences.
And also, like you talked a bit about, numbers and everything like that and growing. So your marketing strategy in particular, you said that, many other brands also, and I think one of your interviews you talked about contextual marketing. So how does your marketing strategy differ?
I think it's super critical, right? Again, going back to the whole sort of it's a very good question, Anusha. I think the whole point around care, right, and around trust, how you market Baby Chakra, now we've launched our line of products as well recently, right? How you market our products, like when I'm talking about, like, we've launched mom and baby products, right? How you market and who you market to as well, right? So, for instance, we work with about 10,000 doctors. We have about 25 million mothers who are exposed to us and who we reach on an annualized basis, right? That's a large impact. Now, when you're working with doctors and when you're working with mothers, right, you have to follow, and like sometimes there will be care guidelines set out, right? So, for instance, there'll be the IMC guidelines set out or Medical Council of India guidelines set out, right? So, for instance, you're doing like virtual, telehealth consultations, any virtual set of consultation, you have to follow a certain set of practices, right, which have now been mandated, actually through COVID. By the Medical Council of India, right? Which is super exciting because you do want some safeguards in terms of, data protection, privacy, patient care protocols, the registered medical practitioner actually being the right one, like on call, right? Versus someone who's just faking it and doesn't have a certificate to prove or doesn't have the credentials to prove.
Right.
So I think some good things have happened institutionally, but some things are the onus on us as organizations, right? Because you're dealing with a sensitive topic. So to give you 2 or 3 examples, and we're still working. It's not like everything is perfect. We're still working towards it, right? One is that, when someone asks a question, for instance, right, on our website, so on the app, when someone asks a question, it's great because it's a closed community. But website, because some of these questions get open, like, and they get indexed, right? We've actually ensured that every question is anonymous, is written by an anonymous user. So you can't identify the user who's asking it, right? On the app, because you are signing through a pretty much laborious registration process, right? So that's why it's okay and they sign up for that, right? But on the website, it's very anonymized, right? So we don't, like, unlike a lot of other platforms, we are very clear that users don't, like, yes, your questions may get indexed, but you can't be attributed to that question.
Yeah.
So the anonymity is preserved, right? The second thing we do, for instance, is that, in every platform that's centered around women in India, you find a lot of spammers on that platform, right? Men who just sign on just to, like, create a bit of, like, havoc and just create noise. So what we've done is we've actually decentralized our community blocking mechanism. So we actually have our power users have extra blocking rights. So you can report spam. Anyone can report spam, right? Yeah. But they actually have extra blocking rights where they can actually go in and block a user who's creating havoc, and that person will get permanently deleted from the platform, right? Okay. Right down to his mobile level, right? So you can't create another platform using you can't create another account using the same mobile phone. So that's the other thing we've done as a platform, right? Because we truly want to create a safe experience and a trusted experience for parents, right? So we're still working towards it. There are still some folks who come in and try to, do whatever they do, but, like, that's the amount of decentralization we've done. And I think the third thing we've done is that, as a company, as I said, right, I think in the quality over quantity, but equally, I think in terms of the trust over the monetization, we've actually said no to brands that we believe are not the right answers for parents. So one of our revenue streams is actually advertising money, right? So basically content marketing or influencer marketing, etc. But we said no to companies that, for instance, do like alcohol-based gripe water, right? Because we don't believe that's the right answer for babies. We don't believe it's the right answer for kids, right? Or let's say companies that basically are espousing clinical claims that are not backed. Right. Those are companies that we don't at all agree to have on our platform, right? So very particular, and there's no such standard, like, we could do it because they're doing it on other platforms, right? But the standard of care we've put in ourselves, saying that if we would not recommend this to our family members, how could we recommend it to Baby Chakra families? Yeah. So those are the things we do.
I think that's really interesting because also, even like, because your company has grown to such a large scale, and the fact that, you still actually really prioritize the care and, even like.
Yeah, the personal touch.
Yeah, and like a lot of entrepreneurs get, lost in how big they can grow their company and how many people they can reach. That's like really, and even like all the things you said about how you're working on technology related issues. I mean, women in tech is not really a concern anymore, I think. Yeah,
I think it's genuinely very inspirational to see that. And the story you told about going into a space where just gonna go out on a limb and say that there were a lot of men
Yeah.
when we were walking into the investment meeting. I think it's very interesting that we finally see that that distinction is not as relevant anymore. Like it's not that much of a factor. And I think you honestly played a huge role, I think, in this country to make it what it is.
Yeah.
That's very kind, Vedika. I think there's obviously a long way to go still,
Of course,
right?
yeah.
I'll give you an example, right? I was reading, just before this, I was commenting on a friend's LinkedIn post.
Yeah.
She's an HBS batchmate of mine, super smart, right? Really strong in healthcare. And she's written a post about her fundraising journey. She's based in the US, right? She's an American, like Caucasian woman, brunette, like, she's from a very privileged background, all the other stuff, right? Super smart. And she's thinking about how she was raising $5 million for her venture, health tech venture, and how she found out that when she started the fundraising process, she found out she was pregnant. And in her note on LinkedIn, she's written, "Oh, the things I learned along the way: wear a black parka because it'll cover your bum, and stuff around, like time your conversations to a point where you're not showing as much, and then in the meantime you can cover up the ground with people who truly believe in you. So when you're closer to your pregnancy, by that time the term sheet now gets signed, right? But people have already sort of backed you and they believe in you and they back you, right? So do try and do your SHAs by that time." And I was thinking, and I'm like, oh my God, we have such a long way to go. So first of all, I'm so proud of her for even writing this out.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so authentic. It's so brave for her to write this out, right? And to basically do it in the spirit of saying, listen, this is a very practical piece of advice from me as a woman entrepreneur to any woman entrepreneur. This is how I did it, right? I wore my black parkas, I tied my very practical, very, very thoughtful, and I just felt so proud of her for even putting it out there, so authentic. At the same time, I was so deeply ashamed of everything that she had to go through.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine for her, she's a Harvard MBA, she was one of the smartest in my batch. And for her to even talk about wearing a black parka when like she is so smart, it just hurt me. So I think I have a long way to go, but certainly we're getting there.
Yeah.
Right? Certainly we're getting there. So just calling out, right?
Yeah. I think a lot of what stuff out there to do with feminism, a lot of it comes from a place of like whenever there's literature about feminism or there's articles about feminism, a lot of it works towards the end goal. I think this article really shows the journey through it, like the fact that she was able to do it through her pregnancy and the way she was giving tips and tricks. It really feels like a safe environment. Like she's trying to create a safe space, but there isn't any. So I think that's very helpful. Like women building each other up is exactly what we need right now.
Yeah.
Just to continue with some of the questions we wanted to ask, you talked a lot about trust within your employees and the fact that everyone needs to maintain this certain idea. So how do you think you have established like a corporate culture in your company? How do you think you're able to sustain your idea within like your employees?
So I say this very often. I think entrepreneurship is your success or failure depends on two things, right? One is on people. So one large part about people is your team. And of course, investors and customers, all of these are people, right? So people, and the second is confidence, right, in yourself. So I think these are the two things that basically make or break entrepreneurs. So I think on the first piece, when I talk about people, I think culture is super critical. And it's been interesting because we've also gone through our own journey, Vedika. So we were Baby Chakra earlier, right? And that was like our independent like organization, company, whatever, right? Which is very easy because people who sign up to work with you, people who are working with you, they're already culture bearers, right? They've already bought into the culture they read here about, right? Also, like we get a lot of inbound referrals, even from people who've left the company saying, hey, my friend would be a great fit, right? So I think people are naturally sort of self-selecting into a culture. Yeah. I think we've now gone through this transition where I sold my company. I sold Baby Chakra last year in August. Right. And I've joined that group now as a co-founder, right? So it's a good glam group. We're sort of a house of brands, right? And a house of media assets. And now Baby Chakra as well, like the entire team is being built out quite rapidly. The company is growing, but equally we're also intersecting a lot with other folks within the group, right? So for instance, the tech team is being centralized, or let's say the content team is being centralized, right? So the teams are going to get centralized right now. So now it's a new challenge on how do you build culture and talk about the culture of Baby Chakra within people who actually have nothing to do with Baby Chakra, but they're helping you out as a service in some sense. Right? So it's a very interesting problem statement. In fact, there's a business school case study being written about this entire transition, right, in the decision. So I think what I have learned along the way is that, culture is something that is transmitted. Not one is, of course, the founder will transmit culture, right? But that's okay. But I think the second part of culture is that it comes from peers, right? So the more exposure, people who are maybe who don't even maybe have the email address Baby Chakra, right? Have maybe Good Glam or My Glam or Pop Exo or Sirona or whatever else, all the different brands that we have. But the more exposure they get of folks at Baby Chakra who are culture bearers, right? The more they appreciate the culture, the more they live the culture. That's one, right? And I think the second piece is culture happens when people understand the value of the impact that they're creating. So I think the one thing, so my job as founder has been number one, of course, I do the culture spiel and I talk about it, right? But number two, I try to expose and try to create collaborations between team members, between my team, culture carriers, and other folks, right, as much as possible. So they like it's almost like this osmosis of culture, right, if you will, right? And I think the third thing is that when you see the impact being created, it's really my job as founder to constantly share the stories of impact we're creating, because the journey of building something for a team can be an extremely frustrating journey as well, right? You don't see you're sitting in one corner, you don't see the impact of the whole that comes together. But when you see that, that's very powerful, right? And that is my job to bring through, because then you understand, okay, because we follow the right practices, we did not compromise on our values, right? We are actually part of Indian families. We can't afford to do something that's against culture, right? So fact and just the scale of who you're touching, such critical sensitive points, I think it really helps people sort of imbibe the culture deeper.
Actually, something we learned about, like when I had business in school also, was like when mergers, acquisitions happen, a lot of problem is how, like Good Glam or Pop Exo, all of these companies would be, imbibing values into their employees versus how you were doing it. So, that kind of clash is also possible. So I'm sure you must have like weighed the risks and pros and cons of the merger and everything. So we actually wanted to understand a bit about the merger. So like, what exactly was your criteria when you were evaluating if it was, right to enter into a partnership with them? So a bit on your like criteria and how you kind of came up with and like went through.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a lot about always, so mergers, absolutely right. M&A is all about people, right? And, of course, the deal structuring and all is a function of how people connect with each other, right? So, because then if you want the deal to happen, it'll happen. Regardless, right? Because you'll figure out some innovative, creative way to make the deal happen if the people are aligned, right? So it's all about people. And I think what ended up happening in our case was that I felt that Darpan, who's the founder of My Glam, right? And when he was talking to me as a founder of Baby Chakra, he and I had a lot in common in terms of like a shared vision of where we wanted, of a couple of beliefs, first of all, right? So first belief being that content, community, and commerce is this holy trinity. It needs to come to way. Like performance marketing is not the answer to build like brands, deep sea brands out, right? So all of these sort of shared sort of values in terms of how we want to build businesses out, right? Consumer centricity, extremely strong on consumer centricity, right? Baby Chakra has this very strong value of like co-creating products with their customers, with their families, right? So mothers and doctors come together to co-create products with us, right? So My Glam had a similar sort of program in place, right? So a lot of shared values and a lot of shared sort of beliefs, which was very important for me to see. The second criteria that I looked at was, when I saw like the history of the previous acquisition was Copexo, right? And I asked Priyanka, I was like, hey, listen, how's it going? She's like, it's going very well. She's very happy. So I said, okay, great. Like, the other founder who's joined also as a co-founder of the group, right? She's super happy. So that means, the team understands the culture of amalgamation, right? They appreciate it. So I think that gave me a lot of comfort. I think the third thing was I was weighing off my options that point in time. And this is like right in the center, like this is in COVID, right? This is like, we're talking about like 2021. So 2020, yeah. So peak of like everything COVID, right? Everything is shut. I fortunately was very lucky. I still had a term sheet from a US based investor. But I think when I was thinking about this, there were so many moving parts around the deal, right? Both deals that I basically said, listen, whatever closes first, I'm going to go with that. It literally was that like practical a decision. And honestly, to give Darpan full credit, he moves super fast, right? So while these other guys are trying to pull the deal together and I was trying to get my investors aligned to the other deal as well, I just had everything ready on the Good Glam side. And I said, okay, this is like, clearly this is awesome. Like, and both deals for me were like comparable. I wanted my investors to decide what they wanted, right? And my investors, to their credit, also support me fully. They said, whatever closes fastest makes sense for you personally. Whatever you're excited about. I'm excited about both. Right. I mean, the first one seems exciting because I like Darpan a lot. I like the construct a lot. But I mean, I'm okay to like continue the financial journey as well. Whatever you want. Whatever closes fastest. So, I mean, this is a bit behind the scenes. I haven't shared this anywhere else, but it's just one of those things, right? That you do as an entrepreneur. You just make these practical choices at some level. And you're like, it works out when it does, and it did.
Again, about the merger, were there any times that you felt that you were maybe losing your creative freedom, or were there any like conflicts that like came up, and how did you like deal with it? Have there been any times that you've regretted merging and you feel like maybe Chakra would do better independently?
I don't regret merging at all. I think it's absolutely the best answer we actually now in hindsight we came up with, right? I think, of course, I mean, I think when you're part of a broader team and a broader structure, the role of the team actually changes from being like sort of generalist to being individual, like sort of being specialist. That's just the nature of, moving from, let's say, when you're like a more like a younger, like 30, 40, 50 member team, 60 member team to moving suddenly to being like a, what is it, like a 5,000, people company, right? So you're basically like, you start appreciating people for their specialization,
Right.
right? Because people really hyper specialize at that scale. And I think the second thing you realize is that, and therefore, so some team members have felt that restriction to your point, right? On saying, oh, I want to do everything. Why am I only doing this? Why am I only told to do this, right?
Yeah.
So there are those conversations that we end up having. I think the second thing is around, I mean, the creative piece, right? I mean, I feel super creative right now because the great thing is that, as a group, we've sort of taken a call to have like a very, very healthy, robust sort of base of assets across D2C brands, across media companies, across creator economies, right? So my exposure levels have just shot through the roof, which I normally would not have had if I was going on my journey alone.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's just practical. I mean, I've just learned so much about different kinds of businesses over the last year, 8 months. It's been a privilege.
And also like I also thought like this might be a little off topic, but like since we actually, so in our class we talk about like creating an entrepreneurial mindset based on all the experiences, all the journeys you've had, because usually when entrepreneurs start their company, they usually have done a lot of things already and learned a lot of things. So since you did study in a law school, did that help you with your decisions financially? And also like, because for entrepreneurs that like we talked about risk, you always have to compare the opportunity cost with the probability of them being successful. So like how did your past experiences, maybe even with McKinsey, since they're also like, how did that help you in making decisions?
So I think a couple of things I learned. Actually, my most key learning is that no one knows the answer.
Right.
Okay, so I think that's the first thing that I think is extremely important for all of us to know, because so many times you come in and say, oh, this person would know better than me. Let me reach out to this person for advice. Let me run it by X. Let me run all these numbers 15,000 times. And no one knows the answer on how these things might turn out, what the right answer is for the most part. Some things are, of course, very evident that this is not the right answer. But like in most things, most important life-changing decisions, there is no right answer. It's about what you make of it.
Yeah.
So I think that's my biggest learning. I could sit today and, like the previous question, I could basically say, listen, oh my God, I really love my journey alone, or, my team really wanted to sort of continue. They had their own sort of status. But the point is like, you are in this now, right? What are you going to make of this that will be really bold, really impactful, really groundbreaking, right? And I think that is what we need to keep on, like, that I think is the heart of entrepreneurship, right? You are handed a deck of cards, or you create a certain environment. You are responsible for it. You are accountable for the outcome. So yeah, so I think that's how I approach life now. And I don't know if McKinsey taught me that. I think McKinsey taught me a few things. I think you're right. I think McKinsey and law school taught me two things. One is that there is no right answer, right? Because in law, I mean, right? It's about like, I don't know if you guys are studying law, but like moot courts and all. Okay, well, good for you. But I think, you kind of realize that, you of course look at precedents, and you look at, you like look at the judge for giving the answer, but the judge is also basically making a decision based on what he or she is being told, right? It may like, based on precedents in the past, but eventually decision is his or her to make, right? And they're making it in the absence of a lot of facts, because they're sitting on a podium, they have no idea. Right? Same with McKinsey, like you're basically creating models and you're creating scenarios where you just don't know how the future will play out. And no one knows. Like even the CEO doesn't know, which is why he or she is sort of employed McKinsey in the first place. McKinsey people are trying to figure out, putting the data together, right? So no one knows the answer. I think that for me was very, very clearly established, I think, through my experience in McKinsey and law school. So that gives me comfort, because, sometimes when I make a decision in the absence of all the facts, I'm like, that's okay. That is life. That's how it's going to be. I don't need to have all the facts to make a decision. I just have to make a decision based on what I know already or what I believe is true.
Something we wanted to kind of ask about is, there's obviously a lot of learning through this process of entrepreneurship, like to go from a job to actually starting something of your own, to have a vision, to actually see it through, to deal with all the hardships. It must have been quite the journey, we can imagine. So, what are some qualities you believe that helped you through? And what were some that you like cultivated through, like, through the hardships and through the journey? Is there anything that you look out for in when you're hiring people that you maybe saw in yourself or saw that you lacked? And now being where you are, being like accomplished in what you've done and actually traversing the path of entrepreneurship, that if you see someone, like when they come in to get a job at your company, like, okay, this is something I want or this is something I don't want. Like
Two things. I think, I'm very clear that you have to be extremely determined
Yeah.
to succeed in anything you set out to do,
Right.
right? I mean, see, it's easy to flit a lot, right? Because life is so distracting these days for all of us. But I think it's extremely important to be determined and to basically, when you set out your mind to do something, I love people who are extremely passionate and determined on what they. And see, the reality is that, okay, 5 years later, will I still be doing Baby Chakra? I don't know. Is it my life's calling? I love what I do, but maybe 5 years later, something changes. Maybe I want to start another venture. So that's okay. But when I take on something, am I fully committed to seeing it through is what I look for in people.
Right.
Right. And I think the second thing apart from determination and I think the resilience to see things through, right? That grit, determination, resilience piece. I also look for people who have a story which is of how they dealt with adversity, right? Many times, and it could be personal or professional adversity. Because, life is all about ups and downs. And, especially when you're part of a venture, there'll be more downs than ups in many cases. But how you pull yourself up, how you inspire others to pull themselves up and go to the next, and keep on going at it, right?
Yeah.
That is something I really respect in team members. And I often say this, right? The team inspires me. When people ask me who inspires me, I'm like, the team inspires me. Because I look around me and I'm like, wow, I have people I have low days, right? I'm human. But I look around and the team will be like, we can do this. It's amazing. Look at what's happening around us, right? And that inspires me. So I certainly look for people who've gone through massive adversity. I want to understand what has it taught them. People have been lost jobs or been fired or they've lost family members or they've suffered a heartbreak. Right? What has it taught you? I'd love to know. And how do you get out of it? What was your process?
Yeah.
Right? I think these are things I really look for. Apart from, of course, your more technical skills, right? Which is problem solving. If you're looking at a BA role, then your business analyst role, look more data crunching, all the other stuff. So those are there. But these are the two core skills I'd look at from a more culture fit as well as sort of resilience fit perspective.
And also, I learned about what an intrapreneur was, and so people who can I think it would be best for you, even if you have people in your team who have the same ideologies as you, and who they understand why you started, and
right.
they get what you're doing and why you're doing, and so having entrepreneurs like that also would have been great. But we actually want to understand also during the pandemic, especially because we might be entrepreneurs one day.
Yeah.
So we wanted to know you had your deal with the Good Glam group was working through the pandemic and everything, but even before you started, we actually want to understand the concept of networking and knowing the market before. How important was that to you? How do you think it worked, and what do you consider the importance of professional networking in that sense? And where do you think you noticed the importance? Of course, the merger would be one result of that, but any other
No, so I said I don't think it's about networking. It's about building relationships,
Right.
and I genuinely believe that, and I believe that it's not just about like I just told you, right? The Baby Chakra alumni actually gets us new hires every day. We get referrals from them every day. We're very lucky, and those referral hires are the best hires I could ask for, right? Because they already come with a sense of what Baby Chakra is. They come with a passion. They've already been alumni has basically told them, oh, it's an amazing place, you have to go apply, right? So that enthusiasm is already there. They're instant converts. So, I'm just is that a network? No, it's a relationship we built when they were part of our team, right? That basically helps us till today, right? Same with, I think, investors, right? I mean, I'm really grateful to folks who backed us in the past and continue to back us today because, you're putting your money where your mouth is, right? And it's tough to do. And, it's not easy. I'm an angel investor today, right? And I really am counting on the entrepreneurs I'm betting on to ensure that they do well. And I will back them even if they don't. But I mean, it's a leap of faith you're taking with people, right? So it is my duty to therefore like respect those relationships in whatever way I can and do good by them, even if it's like sometimes you can't even get the returns that you promise to set out to, but like the other ways you can also compensate them for their belief in you, right? So many ways. So I think, just I want to sort of distill this construct of networking down. I think, at the heart of it, you're your own personal brand. And I say this to all my team members, right? Today, if I'm talking to Vedika and Anusha, I'm going to take back, or you're talking to me with my disheveled hair, unfortunately today, but like the point is I'm my own personal brand, right? You're your own personal brands, right? And as you go through this journey of life, the journey of life is long. So you will keep on investing in building out your personal brand, right? And eventually Vedika will be known for something. Anusha will be known for something. Naiyya will be known for something, right? And one part of that will be the relationships that you build along the way as well, right? People who will know you for what you stand for, will be your evangelist in that process, right? And who will join you in your journey to build what you set out to achieve as well.
Yeah.
So that's how I think about relationships. I don't think about it networking just to go to networking events and like hobnob with people. I don't have the time for that. But I love getting to know people, right? So that's my definition.
Lastly, we just wanted to know if you had any advice for us as future entrepreneurs. How do we maybe build our own personal brand, as you said? Like, is there anything particular you think that would help if we worked on, or is it just experience? Like, what would you suggest?
I'd really suggest that you work with other entrepreneurs in college. Like, when I was going through college, I didn't have, like, there was nothing called entrepreneurship at that point in time, right? It was like considered business family. Right? So I didn't have, like, none of us had that exposure, which I think so many of you have access to today, right? To work with entrepreneurs and to sort of, shadow them or to see them on their journey or to work in a team, which is, maybe not be the most like cool thing to do. Maybe you're working with the most like drudgery sort of focused team, but that's where you learn what it is to build a business, right? You learn all the unsexy, uncool parts because that is what you face as an entrepreneur on a daily basis, right? So I think one is certainly, I mean, if you can do internships, if you can do like work with ventures, like with startups, right? I think that is invaluable. And you should, I would certainly advise anyone. In fact, my niece has gone to Toronto. She's about maybe a year older to you guys, right? And like, I'm like, Mahima, you need to get out there and like work with some founders, like as much as possible because she also has aspirations being an entrepreneur one day. I think the second thing is, put yourself out there and learn those skills of putting yourself out there from today. And I'm so proud of both of you. You didn't give up on this conversation. Had me on a Sunday night, right? So I'm so proud because I'm like, it's so gutsy. These girls are putting themselves out there. They're super respectful, but they're ensuring that I get onto this call for them, right? So I appreciate that. And I think you have to put yourself out there because if you don't put yourself out there, who will do it for you?
Yeah.
So you have to put yourself out there in terms of, if you want something, right? If you want a conversation, if you want an opportunity, or if you want your name somewhere, you have to put yourself out there. And college is a great base for starting to do that in a no-risk atmosphere. Today, who am I talking to? Like, I might not talk to journalists at 10:30 at night, right? But I talk to college students.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. Because I'm like, they're students, they want to talk, I'll help them out. It's okay.
Yeah.
So you're in a very beautiful no-risk atmosphere. Make the most of it. Learn the skill of putting yourself out there, right? And then when you get on to real life, right, outside college, you'll be shameless, and that's amazing. You'll have nothing that will hold you back. No preconceived notions. None of this conditioning we are growing up with, right, about being a certain way. You'll have none of that. So that will be the biggest gift you'll get out of this experience, is my take.
Yeah. I think especially like putting ourselves out there and being shameless, especially being women, is just it. Like there's a lot that comes from it, and there's a lot we've been taught that we don't even realize.
Yeah,
us down, and I think that's actually very important. I think we'll definitely have to start working on that. But thank you so much for this. Like,
my pleasure.
It's
my pleasure.